It is Wednesday, July the 6th. I am John Pollock alongside Waiting, live for another day. Hello, Wei. Welcome to Wednesday.
Thank you, John. Welcome, and welcome everybody watching us.
Yes, we hope all of you are the edge of your seats live in the chat. We appreciate all your comments that come our way, and a lot of positive response to our interview with Tom Lawler from Tuesday. Tom was great, I thought, on the show yesterday. I don't always say that with every last interview that we do, but it was a really good conversation. I enjoyed that a lot.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, a pleasure to be able to speak to somebody who's about to enter, the biggest wrestling tournament of the year, and also somebody who has a bit of a hand, I suppose, on this side of things as well, covering the sport.
Yes, I'll be honest. When we lost him, I didn't think he was coming back when we had the connection snafu. But man, powered back, flawless connection on round two. We had great chat.
Always a risk with these interviews.
Yes. All right. Well, you can go check that out if you are so inclined. And of course, Wei and I will be back tonight with Rewinded Dynamite. And of course, it is July. So once again, I do want to make mention of postwrestlingcafe.com. This month, a loaded one, as Wei mentioned, the G1 kicking off in 10 days. We're going to be starting it. So if you join the cafe for this month alone, you will be getting 7 G1 podcasts with different combinations of Wei and myself. So that's just for July before we go into August. But also we will be having the final 2 editions of MCU Later covering Ms. Marvel, and then a bonus MCU Later where Wei is off to the movies to see Thor, Love, and Thunder, which if you're a wrestling fan, Love and Thunder are 2 words that I never put together during WCW's foray into their Thursday night programming.
Oh, yes. I see where you're going.
I just saw a deer in the headlights there, but
where is he going? Yeah, no, I'm off to the movies tomorrow night, so I'll be watching that, and then we'll probably be doing the review at this point, maybe a little bit later, just to give everybody some time to watch it. But yeah, until then, there's some Miss Marvel coming up, and a lot of everything always going on.
Thor might, if I can swing it. Maybe that is going to be my big return to a movie theater.
Oh,
I want to see.
okay.
I do want to see this one, and this would be a theater going
the last
experience. One? Yes, I think.
I think you reviewed it actually with us.
I think I did too. Yes, I think we did the Thor review together.
So okay.
I'll keep you posted. That's my goal for July. Anyway, so all of that is up there. And next Tuesday on Rewind Away, again, for Cafe members, we are going to be discussing season 1 of Drive to Survive. Our Espresso executive producer, Charlie Ryzek, he was going to go with Judgment Day 2000, but they said, you know what? Forget it. Let's go all in. Drive to Survive, season 1. And we are going to be going back and listening to the series that I am convinced was built around the next big thing, Daniel Ricciardo. I watched episode 1 last night. I mean, this is Daniel Ricciardo's sport. If you walk away from episode 1 having no understanding of F1 like that, he is the star of that first show and season, I would say.
He's the main character. Yeah. So we'll be specifically talking about episodes 1 to 3. And yeah, if you maybe a bit more notes about the rest of the series afterwards as well.
Okay, let's go into the news. On Tuesday night, NXT presented the Great American Bash, which allowed them to have a 4th of July aesthetic with a picnic table, leftover food on this table all night long that Braun Breaker eventually went through. No one vomited. So already this was a promising show, and it was highlighted by new tag team champions as Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade defeated Toxic Attraction. And I thought this match had its problems at certain points, but I do like the direction of going with Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez. I think this is like a great team that does, to me, appeal to a younger audience. I know NXT as a whole does not, but I continue to be impressed with Roxanne Perez, and they're going to follow this up with her challenging Mandy Rose for the women's title next week. And interesting that she had essentially her own cash-in, but as a babyface, she's giving 1 week's notice so you can build up this match for next week. And yes, she will take on Mandy Rose on next Tuesday's show.
Yeah, I think Perez, as usual, is a standout, when it comes to really the women's division right now. But I think Cora Jade is coming along pretty well as well. As characters, I would say all four are doing really well. In ring, certainly, like with some of the, like with Gigi Dolan in particular, I felt in the match maybe like I think Toxic Attraction is fantastic. But maybe a bit more time, like in NXT, is not going to be so bad for the two of them, as well as Mandy Rose, before they can, get that call up there. But I think that to have a really strong babyface team in Jaden Perez is going to be a nice change for NXT. They're very similar types of characters to what Liv Morgan is right now in SmackDown, and they seem to really have the crowd behind them. So I'm kind of excited to see what sort of matches that they have.
Yeah, if Roxanne Perez is on the WWE trajectory, in 3 years, she is going to be screaming at you fans, you turned your back on me. And she'll be a hated villain, I'm sure. All right. We also had Braun Breaker retain his NXT championship against Cameron Grimes in the main event segment. And then afterward, so earlier in the show, they had aired the latest vignette with JD McDonough. Mm-hmm. It's going to take some time to adjust to. I guess he had just come over to America and rented out a empty condo space and was doing yoga with some mask and said he's coming next week. And that was that was sending people off of the path to not expect this attack that came at the end of the show to Braun Breaker and putting him through a picnic table or just a regular table to end the show. And I guess sets up Braun Breaker's next opponent and where Grimes goes. This was positioned as, him putting all his chips in, and now he has lost the North American title and lost his opportunity to win the NXT title.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As far as the match itself goes, I thought the arm injury was really well portrayed, throughout the build-up as well as the match itself. I was actually quite impressed with Braun Breaker's selling here. The match, I don't know if it was as exhaustive or as memorable, maybe as
felt rushed at the end. I mean, NXT has the overrun, but I mean they're starting this match like almost 10-2, and it just felt like a very kind of truncated main event, and They certainly were going a little overboard on this shoulder injury, like the spot where the trainer is, do you feel any pain? Nope. And he goes to no tape. I guess he didn't want the target, but I mean, he knew what the target was. Grimes was the one who inflicted this injury. We knew it was there. Why wouldn't you just, I guess, he's such a valiant warrior that he doesn't need tape on his shoulder.
Yeah. I mean, how,
I bet he looks at Kazushi Sakuraba and says, what a
tape.
wimp.
Yeah, wow. Is tape okay, whatever. But I mean, I thought his selling was actually pretty good, and I thought it was a pretty spectacular finish with him, hitting that spear out of nowhere. So I would classify it as another, successful outing for Braun Breaker in this championship reign. And as for Cameron Grimes, I don't really know where else you go for him in NXT. He's somebody who I think is more than ready to advance from this system. He is a character. Is it a world championship level character? That I don't know, but certainly as a mid card act, I at least I think there's something to be done with him outside of NXT. So we wonder if
what if you add some hyphens and accents and we get Cameron Grimes.
Oh, him as another model. I mean, it could work out. Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Maybe the most interesting segment, Apollo Crews, who I know is your most compelling character on NXT week to week. He comes out and he explains his troubles on the main roster, which were so bad that when they introduced his character with the accent, his kids stopped watching WWE. But now that he's back in NXT, his kids can watch wrestling again. So they are going after the younger audience, and they have now added 2.
I imagine there was some truth to this Apollo Crews promo.
I believe this to probably be completely true. I was amazed to hear it on a WWE program itself. That that was bad. My kids didn't even want to watch me.
I mean, beyond the fact that I think maybe he was trying to say it was bad, but more so just the idea that it's not who he was. He was portraying some sort of Nigerian king, which maybe is who he actually is in terms of his lineage, but certainly not the father that he was going home to be. So I continue to like the rebranding of Apollo Crews. It feels like they're finally starting to treat him as a straight up babyface lead, and we didn't get any sort of weird future looking type of thing. So I much prefer this version of Apollo Crews. I think his promo sounds really good now.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds a whole lot more natural than what he was doing previously. We're also going to get yet another introduction of this character. I thought that maybe this was a promo for A Beautiful Mind. Axiom. Axiom is coming in, presented by WrestleNomics. I thought maybe maybe they quickly signed Brandon Thurston and got his name changed. But yes, this is I don't know, how would you describe this character? He's a mathematician that has everyone figured out. This is like the male Kiana James.
Yeah, so this is A-Kid, and his new name, his new branding is Axiom. And I suppose A-Kid doesn't necessarily, I don't know, spark too many ideas of what his profession would be in this NXT 2.0 universe. So clearly they've asked him, hey, like, what's unique about you, A-Kid? You know, I was good at math. That is now the gimmick. He was really good at math. I didn't hate this. I thought it was actually a very well-produced video. He basically is kind of, using that to break down the idea that everything can be broken down into a formula or an equation. So he really is the new Alexander York, I think. Not that who's the other person, Kiana James.
Yes.
I mean, this is the real person. Like, with look at these equations. I'm sure
maybe he's going to explain like his algorithm on how he's going to have the most viewed YouTube clips when NXT posts them the next day. Like the composition of the thumbnail. What kind of social engagement is necessary to propel that clip to the top of the YouTube algorithm, and he is going to become the most social friendly NXT superstar.
Perhaps, yeah, we shall see. But as a name change, I think he could do way worse than Axiom. Axiom certainly, to me, sounds way better than
Axiom.
A-Kid. A-Kid, I think, is an awful name.
A-Kid. Okay. Yeah, and I guess we had this update on Santos Escobar, who was hospitalized, and Tony D'Angelo took a photo of him, and I guess explains Santos Escobar being off TV temporarily.
Yeah, he's been hospitalized. So,
man, this group is just dropping like flies. Although I guess Santos Escobar got a better end of the deal than Two Dimes.
He's
alive.
He didn't get thrown off a bridge. So,
man, there's criminal activity here in NXT.
Always, man. Are you kidding me? Kidnappings, killings, straight up. What about this QR code, John? Did you scan your phone for this QR code?
Oh, yes. So the numbers are what? 8, 10, 11? Is that the numbers?
That is correct. 8, 10, and 11. Yeah. What does it mean?
That's supposed to be the question, I guess. Maybe
it doesn't necessarily reflect any sort of significant date from what I understand in wrestling WWE history, at least.
You don't think we're going back in time to 2011?
Can you tell me what day of the week this was?
Oh, August 10th.
Yeah.
It would have been if you give me a second here.
This is the real Axiom right here.
Wednesday?
I'll take your word for it. I'm not doing it.
Oh, you got to at least double check
it.
I
will check it. But yeah, well, who do you think this is for?
No idea. I think we need a new character in NXT. So
yeah, no, it's interesting. I love it was Wednesday. You are remarkable, John. How did you do that?
I don't know. You put me on the spot, way.
Damn.
I can't give away my secrets here. You think I'm Axiom? I'm just going to reveal the algorithm in my head?
Seriously, was there like a pay-per-view or something that like a UFC event or something that you were able to remember?
No, but
wow, wild.
Anyway,
he got it, everybody. The machine still works.
It's it might be a little rickety and need some fine tuning every now and then, but that's what Way's here to put me on the spot for.
So we've also got the Diamond Mine breakup, or at least semi rift. Diamond Mine is fine. Where we had a little match between Damon Kemp and Roderick Strong taking on the Creeds, which the Creeds ended up winning by pinning Damon Kemp after, essentially kind of beating up Roderick Strong, and Roderick almost cowardly tagging out.
So, I really enjoy Roderick in this role. I think he plays like the asshole coach / leader really well.
Yeah.
I think it helps that he's also like the smallest of this group as well. And I just think he plays the role really well. And what this ultimately leads to, if they do the full breakup, if they double down and the Creeds end up, they align with Roderick. Maybe it's Damon Kemp that's going to get bounced. Guy ate the pin.
Very possible, yeah. I mean, it's interesting that they're already going to the match without doing the full-on breakup. So after the match, they're still somewhat friends, but the tension is certainly still there. How did you feel about Damon Kemp?
Fine. I don't think he's jumped out at me in a big way yet. But I mean, in terms of just when you look at this guy's athletic pedigree, he's attached with a group that seems to have some momentum on it. That I'm more high on him than others.
It's a good fit for him. It's a good role for him at the moment. You know, he gets to be in tag team matches with a veteran like Roderick Strong. And I think when you're talking about like that, like wrestling with other people who are very similar of a similar background in amateur wrestling, it's just kind of fun to see these like big dudes toss each other. And that's to me what this match provided.
Do you think Tatum Paxley made it to the dojo at 8 a.m. this morning to train with Ivy Nile?
I certainly hope so. Yeah. I'm gonna say yes. Sure.
Okay, that was the Great American Bash.
It was honestly like it's another edition of NXT with a name attached to it, and like a title match in the main event, but albeit a short one. You know, really just a 10-minute one. Title change. You know, so that was significant. But beyond that, just another TV show.
Yes. All right, let's go into some ratings notes because they have been delayed because of the 4th of July. So we're circling back to Friday. And SmackDown, it was down from the last couple of weeks, but still above 2.1 million viewers with 2,142,000, a drop of 4%. In the 18 to 49 demo, doing a 0.49. So they were second behind Univision's telenovela that was airing from 9 till 10. So second for the night among network programming. They fell 7.5% in the demo, up a small amount in 18 to 34. And in Canada, they did just under 131,000 viewers, which was up from the prior week, and a big jump in their 25 to 54 demo. So it seems that WWE, it's not riding the same wave that they were with all of the attention on Vince McMahon, which I think got extended with John Cena on TV last week. But nonetheless, their television is in really good shape going into these summer months where you're not going to have the same level of competition. I mean, SmackDown, unless there is, it's interesting because Showbuzz is now monitoring Univision, which it was not before. And you can see like the level of audience that they're doing, but they should be right near the top on Friday nights and Monday nights for certain, unless you get certain outlier weeks like the Home Run Derby coming up in 2 weeks. But I would say these are very healthy numbers for WWE. And all they had advertised for this was going in was that all the Money in the Bank participants would be on the show. You didn't know you were getting a fatal 4-way. You didn't know you were getting a meaningless battle royal to start off the show. It was just tune in to see the Money in the Bank people the night before they're in Money in the Bank. We're like, cool. I've blocked off 2 hours of my night for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I'm curious, like, you know, the Univision not being recognized on Showbuzz Daily, like, does that affect anything with them? Like, you know, do advertisers necessarily look at Univision as the same category as a Fox, for instance, or, you know, is it just another data point that is interesting maybe to people like us, but not necessarily affecting them in the grand scheme of things?
Affecting in terms of Univision itself?
No, in terms of like Fox or like WWE being able to tout the fact that they, you know, or how successful the SmackDown is.
Right. I mean, in this case, like, you know, previously we would like, this is kind of our kind of a window into what network viewership is. So, I mean, a month ago, we would have just looked at SmackDown as being number one. And here you can see technically it is number two, just because we didn't have access to this information prior, unless you were someone subscribing to Nielsen information. But that's, in terms of media reporting on it, these were numbers that we didn't get before with with the bottom two there. So I mean, I think it's more so just an insight into seeing like the level of audience, but I don't think it makes a grand difference in where you perceive SmackDown to be.
How about Rampage?
Rampage, on the other hand, back into the top or among the top cable programs on Friday night. They finished third, way up from where they were the week before, which they were number 26th the week prior. So this week they did 486,000 viewers, up 15%, and a 0.16 in the demo. So it was a big jump in 18 to 49, but still not huge 18 to 49 numbers compared to what they've been doing in the past, but this is slightly ahead of what they've been doing over the past month. They doubled their 18 to 34 audience from last week, but again, they were coming off low numbers. Big increases among 12 to 34, 19.5% increase in 35 to 49, and then a small drop with 50 plus. So I would say that this is sort of a more normalized Rampage viewership, where I think you are going to look at 18 to 49, not quite reaching the same level as before. And this was a fairly loaded up Rampage when you had a gimmick match off the top with the Royal Rampage. You also had the Young Bucks wrestling on television. So it was, to me, a more ramped up edition of the show than most weeks. And I don't know if we're going to see slow growth or if this is sort of kind of where it flatlines over the summer, if this is kind of the viewership we're expecting over the summer, which, if this is the level it stabilizes at, it tells me that the playoffs led to some people maybe not making this as much a priority, and fewer of them are coming back, although there is some bounce back from playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But the weekend also saw several things, because Saturday night UFC aired their prelims on not just ESPN Plus, but they were on both ESPN and ABC. So on ABC it was only 929,000 viewers, but it was on ESPN at the same time, and they finished first for the night on ESPN. So when you factor in that as well, that's a pretty good night for UFC. And for the Disney perspective, it's putting your big property in UFC on both your biggest platforms in terms of cable and network with ABC, with the idea of getting last minute buys for your other service in ESPN Plus. So from a strategic standpoint, this makes a lot of sense for Disney to be putting UFC across its platforms. And in the summer months, when probably your primetime viewing on ABC, it's not all that deep, throw on the prelims. It didn't do a horrible number. It didn't win the night, but it was a good number, and it didn't really impact the ESPN number all that much either. And there we have second F1 qualifying on Saturday morning. Look at that way. Everyone rising to watch the British Grand Prix qualifying. And then the next day, F1 dominating the day on Sunday. Do you want to pull up Sunday and look at this? It's all motorsports way on Sunday. We had F1, the British Grand Prix, starting at 9:55 in the morning, doing a 0.49 in the demo, way ahead of NASCAR. But just look at the comparison of these demos. If you want to see what the audience makeup is, that 18 to 34 number jumps out. Look at the 0.49 that F1 did on Sunday morning. And the big advantage NASCAR has, it's 50 plus. That is their core audience, whereas F1 clearly has a lot of younger viewership and is comfortably ahead in all of those other categories, but for 50 plus, like, that is your establishment viewing audience that is watching NASCAR, and that's also in the middle of the day as opposed to that much earlier for F1. But very impressive figures regardless.
Yeah, very impressive demos across the board. Looking at like females 12 to 34, I mean, females 12 to 34 aren't really watching TV at all on a Sunday, except
on a Sunday morning
at 10 a.m. for the Formula One Grand Prix. Really quite incredible. So, I mean, obviously we've spoken enough about this, the influence of this Netflix series, but I mean, I'm sure it's the sport itself, and at this point, where people are choosing to wake up so early to watch it. So, these are very healthy numbers for any sport and any league. And again, an ESPN property that I'm sure they're quite happy with.
Yeah, and you look at this, like if you are F1, it gives you some insight into their recent deal, their extension that they signed with ESPN. They had a higher offer on the table from Amazon, but that's going to be a difficult decision that you're making if you're someone of that level of foregoing the large. If you're looking to still create viewers and have the largest reach, it's staying on traditional television and having that window as opposed to going all streaming, even though in the short term there's much more money that's going to be thrown out by an Amazon that is trying to establish itself as a competitor. But I mean, what are you trading in for those extra millions? But there you go. Very, very strong viewership from both. It is a motorsports renaissance at the moment. Way, are you going to get in any NASCAR?
Not as much, I think I've gotten my fill with F1, but it is interesting. I think I'm just looking for that guide for some of the principal characters involved. I believe, no, not so much. How about like IndyCar? Are you watching any of that?
I can't. I don't have the bandwidth for more. I've got the F1 fixes.
Grosjean is in Indy now.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Mhm.
I'm always wondering where some of these drivers go, and that makes sense. They just find other teams elsewhere. I wanted to bring this up because I ended up writing about it a little bit in my update. So earlier this week, Shotzi had put up a statement on Twitter and reacting to those that had been critical of some of the spots in the women's Money in the Bank match. And she explained that, she was took them like somewhat lightheartedly, acknowledging the fact that she was probably going to end up on Botchamania, but stated like it did hit her much harder when there were people, stating she should be fired and probably crossing a certain line. But then on Tuesday, she deactivated her Twitter account and she did give an update on Instagram stating, you can see it there. I appreciate everyone checking in on me, but I swear I'm fine. I've been going through the toughest year of my personal life. She did lose her father and her stepfather over the past year or so. So it's deeper than nasty comments, but also Twitter has not helped with my already fragile mind state. Just trying to stay motivated and positive. I'm focused on my goals and not what's on the internet. And I mean, this is a common response we see from performers every now and then. And I think when you group them all together and you wonder about the kind of the day-to-day experience for these performers online, how much being online and having these social channels, like the positive versus the negative, because I don't think it's just this clear distinction that it's all bad and all great. It's weighing the tremendous positives that you get by having an online presence with your fan base. I'm sure hearing, stories from people of how they have enriched their lives through being a fan of this performer. But the other side of it, even if it's a small percentage, it's very toxic, and it just seems like it does a number on the mental health of these performers. And if, we're going to see more disengagement online, and how you balance this if you're somebody that is a public figure. I just see this as more and more we're going to see these stories, and it's something just to monitor of kind of what the role of social media should be for these performers. And if just ultimately disengaging and sending it off to somebody else or to run your social media is the answer.
I think it varies for every single person, and what they might be able to handle, what they're dealing with in their personal lives, like Shotzi here has expressed. I think, I think most of us can probably benefit from turning off social media for at least a portion of our day, or using it a little bit less than we probably currently are. And for a lot of us, maybe deactivating it altogether is only going to bring positives to our lives. I think there's something.
I think that's really hard though for people, even like the idea, like we do see people like they will deactivate their accounts, but not completely. Like it's very hard to just cut the cord and eliminate it completely. Like we see people that they come back to social media. It is a certain addiction to it. The idea that you do need this connection, and
why?
That's my question. Is I do feel that there are a lot of positives that they see from this and benefit of if you are somebody that has a sizable following, do you completely delete that and eliminate that from yourself? Are you less valuable if you're somebody middle of the roster and you leave, and this is someone that does not have a social media presence? Does that affect you if you had to look at the prospect that I could be on the independent scene in 2 years, and this could be something that is going to harm my professional life, even if in the short term it is harming my personal health?
Sure. Yeah. But when there are as many negative effects as something like this has given to somebody like Shotzi, who thank goodness recognizes, I think I don't know, suffering that being on one of these platforms is doing to her. I don't think whatever benefits you're getting is worth it. So I think she's making the right call. I think it's, obviously another message to fans out there who, I think it's one thing to criticize somebody, which is what we do on these shows. We're grading performances, but it's another to personally attack. And there are probably a lot of people out there who, under the veil of anonymity, feel like they could just say anything to anybody, and it's wrong.
And in extreme cases where we are seeing, like, it seems weekly that I'm seeing a performer that will post something about boundaries for fans who are finding their home address. We have extreme cases like with Sonya Deville 2 years ago.
Well, and much of the common factor is women in this industry, women in this company, and somebody like Shotzi probably gets it way more worse than I think you and I can personally imagine.
Without a scientific study, I can venture to guess that the experience for a female performer day to day online is significantly worse than a male performer. And that's not to say male performers don't get it either, but I would all one has to do is look at the comment section for some of these female fans and what kind of attention they attract, and the comments and microscope that they are held under. I could not fathom that on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. I'm certainly hoping, a company as large as the WWE is able to provide some sort of consultation or some sort of training for people who need it, at least, when it comes to using social media, when it comes to, just handling criticism, when it comes to knowing how to respond to, or if at all. Or in many cases, just to kind of simply not use it whatsoever. There are people like John Moxley who simply use social media as a one-way street. They use it to promote and then do not engage whatsoever with anybody else. In our generation, we're already kind of deeper into it, but in these newer generations, I think more and more people are just strictly being tossed into this flaming dumpster called Twitter without knowing the responsibility of how to handle it.
We're also entering a generation way where it's, as the performers are entering the industry at a younger age, more and more of them don't know a world without Twitter or Facebook, and have probably been online since their early teens, if not older. So it's not even, for us that at least has that before and after perspective. Just having an online attachment is just, it's almost part of your DNA, that you have had an online profile that now is expanded 100x because now you're on national television, potentially at a very young age as well. When we see some of the performers that we see coming up in NXT or AEW, that all of a sudden there's a big spotlight on you, and that is going to bring with it lots of positive attention, but also a lot of negative and sometimes toxic attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would personally, just encourage everybody who has maybe a tough time with social media to just continue to assess what it is doing for you in your life. If it's not all great, consider turning off, or at the very least curating your experience with it, whether it be limiting the time that you're on it, or unfollowing a number of the people that are not benefiting you in any way, or making lists, which is what I tend to do, or just getting off of the particular channels. Maybe Instagram is your thing, and maybe TikTok is your thing, but you want to get off the other ones. Just be mindful and be conscious of what you're using for and what you're really gaining out of it.
Yeah, I just bring this up because I think more and more it's something that maybe needs to start at even at the wrestling school level, of kind of giving some insight into what to expect on this side, because I think it's very tough, especially when I think part of your career now entails having this presence online as well, and how to navigate it. So I just thought this was a chance to discuss this a bit further. Last thing here on the docket is Dynamite tonight, which they are in Rochester, New York at the Blue Cross Arena. Of course, this was the home of the late Brody Lee, who was set to debut in this arena when the pandemic hit. And tonight it will be a different Brody in the main event, in Brody King, who is challenging Jon Moxley for the interim championship. We have the street fight for the TNT title between Scorpio Sky and Wardlow. Thunderstorm, Tony Storm and Thunder Rosa teaming against Nyla Rose and Marina Shafir. The Butcher and the Blade against Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. And Christian Cage and Luchasaurus will appear live on the program.
Yeah, 2 title matches here. A Jon Moxley interim title defense, nonetheless, but still, I think that's pretty big for a Dynamite typically.
It'll tell you, your audience, like, yes, it's Moxley wrestling, which is significant, but also the idea of how your audience responds in terms of the interim championship being the focal point of your programming this summer against an opponent that, let's be honest, is it's a cold opponent coming out of Rampage, and you haven't really had a chance to build him up for this.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. But nonetheless, it is the biggest match of Brody King's career, at least in terms of exposure. There are going to be more eyeballs on watching this man wrestle than at any other point in his life. And it's his chance to show the world, why he's been, so talked about, at least on the independent scene, for such a long time. And then we also have Scorpio Sky versus Wardlow, which seems to be a bit of a culmination of their particular storyline. Do we see a new champion tonight, John?
I think it's an angle alert, the fact that there is a street fight. I think at the very least you're going to have Wardlow have to go through an army, which that formula has worked very well for Wardlow, and it could simply be him just overcoming everybody, and you put the title on Wardlow. He's to me taken a big hit since Double or Nothing. Not that it's like irreversible, but I think a lot of that momentum of everything in the MJF feud has been lost in the fallout of that. So this feels like let's get Wardlow back on track for something significant this summer. So the idea of seeing yet another TNT title change would not surprise me if they feel that's necessary for Wardlow, unless this is to build to something bigger with other people getting involved with the street fight stipulation.
Yeah. I wouldn't say Scorpio Sky has necessarily... He's had a run, but I feel like it's been pretty marred by, all the messy heel babyface dynamic with him and Sammy Guevara. So I wouldn't necessarily say like he's really achieved and accomplished all that much as champion yet. So in that sense, I could see them keeping the belt on him and, pushing this thing for another rematch. It seems like it is kind of coming out of nowhere. And, I agree with you about Wardlow. And I think much of that is because, without being, a partner with somebody like an MJF on the other side of things, it really does kind of take this from feeling like it takes his program from feeling like a main event feud to something in the mid card, which everything he's done has kind of been a part of since. So, can he find that magic with Scorpio Sky? Well, we'll see. We'll see what sort of match they provide. But I do see this feud continuing myself. And
for Moxley and Brody King, are you going team open mouth or closed mouth?
Oh, okay. Open mouths versus the closed mouths. I wonder if the graphic designers thinks, oh, okay, I can't have 2 open mouth dudes. Gotta do one.
Then the TNT title match is it's a pick'em.
Is it really? 2 open mouths. You're right. Wow. Did not notice.
I can't unsee these now. It's this observation I've recently picked up, and I just can't unsee them. So you have to go through this with me too.
Yeah.
So I think closed mouths will still be fed tonight on Dynamite.
I think so as well. Yes. So that's Dynamite.
We will be live at 10 p.m. Eastern tonight with Rewind to Dynamite to go through everything that goes down in Rochester, New York, where the post presence will be felt as well. If Davey Portman makes it there, it sounds like he's having a hell of a time getting there.
Is it? Why? Is he? Why?
I don't know. You can follow his Twitter. It seems like he's late train and
hey,
multiple
by the way,
factors, but I think he'll make it.
Those guys have reached 1,000 followers on
Whoa!
YouTube. So congrats and thank you to everybody who might have signed on after we made mention of that yesterday. They did not do a live show yesterday, but they did put out a new edition on their podcast feed. So stay subscribed and you'll get plenty of bonuses, including something with Davey's live experience at Dynamite, I'm sure, in the days ahead. We have one super chat to get to, and this comes to us from Jake from the Windy City. Thank you as always for the support, Jake. He sends in $5 and says, do you think AEW is on the verge of losing any momentum MJF had? If there's still any kind of follow-up soon, it could become an afterthought.
If you're to look at present, there's no doubt that MJF is sort of on the back burner, and I think out of sight, out of mind. That said, the moment he returns to television, I think a lot of that is recaptured. So it's not something that, yes, I can say now, of course, but that was the idea going in. When you're taking him off television, naturally, we're moving on to what is happening in the here and now. So when he comes back, if no one reacts when he came back and it didn't matter for viewership, then you'd have a problem. But I'm not forecasting that to be the outcome.
Agreed. I mean, it's similar to when a professional wrestler leaves WWE and isn't on TV for a number of months. They make their return in another promotion, and it's still as big as it was before. So, they're attempting the same thing with MJF here. It is interesting though. You know, they're at a point now where they're so low on stars, and to purposely keep somebody off, you know, for story or angle purposes, is something that is unusual.
It's a big sacrifice. You didn't make that call when in May, when you knew all these injuries would be coming your way. I mean, the injuries just compound the fact. But it is also the summer months where there is less of a focus on your numbers. So, I mean, is this something where it's like, we're just going to bite the bullet this summer? We've been hit with an ungodly amount of injuries, and we just have to push through, and come the fall, in theory, you could have most, if not all of these performers coming back, and then you're going to have a swell of star power and returns that you can stagger and build to.
But in MJF's case, I mean, can you see him making a return as early as tonight?
I don't throw anything out. It would seem very abrupt to bring him back tonight and go back to Wardlow on top of it, if that's the idea of him showing up there. So I would venture not. But
I don't think he would be paired with Wardlow anymore.
Okay, and just have him on, just have him come back and go where?
To start whatever angle they want him to start.
MJF, Tony Khan at All Out. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know at this point.
Okay. Well, we will chat about it, whatever happens tonight at Dynamite in Rochester, New York. Thanks to everybody for joining us. And of course, you can catch all the latest news, all the latest shows up at postwrestling.com and postwrestlingcafe.com, where we will have MCU later on Thursday night and Rewind to SmackDown Friday night after SmackDown and Rampage with your phone calls. All patrons have the opportunity to call in Friday nights. So that is it. And thank you for tuning in to the Post Daily News Show.